Okay, so now we're going to be doing factorising single brackets. So now we use the opposite of expanding brackets, so we're going to put it back into brackets. So what is factorising? Factorising is the reverse process of expanding brackets. A factorised answer will always contain a set of brackets. To factorise an expression fully, take out the highest common factor, your HCF, of all the terms. Okay, so an example I have here is if we've got 2y plus 6 and it has a highest common factor of 2, because 2 goes into 2y and 2 goes into 6, so you put that outside of your bracket, which is explained here. Okay, then you have to find 2 times by what gives you 2y, and then 2 times by what gives you positive 6. So once you have your answers, so 2 times by 2, let me just change my color. 2 times by y will give you your 2y, and then 2 times by 3 will give you your 6. So because you found out your highest common factor is 2, that goes outside of your bracket, so you can just draw it straight like that. Okay, and then once you find your factors that multiply to give you the previous answer without your brackets, so 2 times by what gives you 2y, so 2 times by y gives you 2y, 2 times by what gives you 6, 2 times by positive 3 gives you positive 6. So that's how you'd factorise from going from an expression like this back into brackets. So let's go through some examples. Again, pause this video, copy out the examples if you want, or wait till the end and pause it to copy out the examples with the workings out. So, for example 1, it says factorise 3y plus 15. So the first thing you have to do is find our highest common factor. What goes into 3y and what goes into 15 that's the same? So if you'll notice that 3 goes into both 3y and it goes into 15, so we write our 3 and we draw our bracket. Okay, then we ask 3 times by what gives me 3y, and then 3 times by what gives me positive 15. Okay, the reason I'm writing positive is it's really important to remember that. So 3 times by what gives me 3y, so we know, hopefully we'll remember that it's just y on its own. 3 times by what gives me positive 15 is going to be a positive 5. So now that I've found out what my two answers are to go inside my bracket, I just write it in. So 3 in our brackets, y plus 5. Because if we were to expand it, 3 times y gives us our 3y, and 3 times 5 gives us our positive 15. Right, let's have a look at example 2. So we've got 4w minus 6. So we have to find our highest common factor that goes into 4 and goes into 6. Now this one isn't as easy as this one where we have 3 there. So what number goes into 4w and what number goes into 6? The answer is 2. So we can write 2 and then draw our brackets. So then 2 times by what gives me 4w, and then 2 times by what gives me minus 6. Remembering that minus, okay? Don't forget it, it's there. Okay, so 2 times by what gives me 4y. So 2 to get to 4, you have to multiply it by 2. So, and then that w. So you just put 2 times by 2 gives you your 4, and then multiply by your w gives you the 4w. So 2 times by what gives you the negative 6. So remember, a positive and a negative is your negative, so your answer is going to have to be a negative. And then 2 times by what gives you 6, the answer is 3. So now that you've found these out, all you have to do is just write it inside your bracket. Okay, let's have a look at this one. So if we've got 15y plus 20, so what goes into 15y and also goes into 20? Well, we have the number 5. Then we open our brackets. So 5 times by what gives me 15y, and 5 times by what gives me positive 20. 5 times what gives me 15, so 5 times 3, and then we have our y. 5 times what gives me positive 20, it's going to be a positive 4. So then we can write it into our brackets. We've got 3y plus 4. Example 4, a squared plus 3a. So what's common between these two? The answer is a. Okay, so a comes outside of our bracket, and then we have a times by what gives me a squared, and then a multiplied by what gives me positive 3a. So hopefully you remember with our laws of indices, a times by itself will give us our a squared, so it's a times a, and then a times what gives me positive 3a, a times 3, positive 3, gives me 3a. So now I just have to do is write it in here, so a plus 3. Okay, another 4 examples. So example 5, w squared minus 5w. So again, what's common between these? It's the letter w. So we write a W and our open brackets. W times by what gives me W squared, and W times by what gives me minus 5W. So it's very similar to example 4. What times by W gives you W squared? It's also W. And then W times by what gives me minus 5W. So you'll know it's a negative, and then it'll be minus 5. So you just write it in, W minus 5 inside your bracket. So this is going to be your final answer, W, and then open bracket, W minus 5, close bracket. Example 6, we've got 24x squared plus 20x. So here we've got two things that are common. We can take out a digit that goes into 24 and 20, which is number 4. But then we also have a common factor of x, so we can take out x as well. Okay, so then we have our brackets. So 4x times by what gives me 24x squared, and 4x times by what gives me 20x, or positive 20x. So to get the x squared, you're going to have an x there, okay? And then to get to 4 to 24, you're just going to multiply it by 6. So you're going to get 6x. And then 4x times by something gives me 20x. There can't be any more x's because there's only one x, it's not squared. So 4 times by what gives me 20, and the answer is positive 5. So the answer would be 6x plus 5 inside of our brackets. Example 7. So let's have a look what's common. The common is the letter C. So we open our brackets. So C times by what gives me C cubed, and then C times by what gives me positive 2C. So here we've got C to the power of 1. Remember, when it's on its own, it's always to the power of 1. So how do we get to the power of 3? It's going to have to be C squared. And then C to get to 2 plus 2C, we have to do positive 2. So inside our bracket, we're going to get C squared plus 2. And finally, example 8, what's common between 2W squared and W? The answer is W, so W comes out. Okay, so not W, sorry, not 2. W times by what gives you 2W squared, and then W times by what gives you W. So remembering here, we've got our W squared, so we're going to have a W there. And then how do we get to what time? 1 times what gives you 2 is 2, so your answer would be 2W for this one. Okay, and then W times by something gives you W. So what do you have to times something by to get the same exact value? And that is 1. And because it's a positive, it's plus 1. Remember, anything times by 1 is going to always give you the same answer. So W times by 1 will always give you W. Okay, and a way of testing this out is if you expand it. So for example, I'll expand question 8. So question 8, expand. So we've figured out that it's W and then W, 2W plus 1. So if I was to expand this to make sure I got it correct, W times by 2W and then W times by 1. So remember, there's an invisible 1 there. There's also 1 there. So 1 times 2 is 2. W times W, remember it's W, and then 1 plus 1 as your power. So it's W, 2W squared. So that's that first one there. And then W times 1, anything times by 1 is itself. So your answer is W. Once you put these together, we get 2W squared plus W. Okay, so that's how you sort of test it out to see if you've got it correct. So what I like to do is going to be 2 tasks. I'd like you to pause the video as we are going along, and I'll let you know when to pause and when not to. So have a look at these questions. Task 1, there are 12 questions. So pause this video, have a look at these questions, write them out, and figure out your answers. Okay, so task 1 does continue. So pause the video, have a go at the rest of these questions, and then we'll be revealing some answers. Okay, so if you could please mark your answers. Make sure that you've got a red pen in your book and filling in any answers that you got incorrect. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Now we're going to go on to task 2. So if you just pause this video, there is a short example here as well that's explained if you want to copy it out, but you do not have to copy out this example. It's up to you, but please do copy out the questions and then your workings out. So pause the video, have a go at these questions, and the task 2 does continue. Okay, so going on to the second part of task 2. So pause this video, have a go at the rest of these questions. Okay, so I'm going to reveal the answers to these questions. So if you please mark your answers, making sure that you are red penning and filling in any answers that you got incorrect.